Welcome everybody. I'm so excited to be here today. I welcome you to this MetaMusic Conversations, this webinar that I conceive as a place for us to have these conversations that are meta music, that are beyond music. What is there beyond what we call music that is possible to use as a tool for deep transformation, as a tool for healing, as a tool to connect? My work is about bridging ancient technology with modern technology. And when I talk about ancient technology, for me, it is sound, it is ancient wisdom, it is traditions that we bring with us along the way. And they serve us, again, as possibilities to be connected to the natural world, and so that we can be in resonance with the entire universe and just really do and evolve accordingly. So today I have amazing guests with whom I've been growing as an individual, as an artist, as a musician, as a shaman, as a healer. They've been informing my experience. We've been sharing a lot of powerful moments and sharing it with the community. And you will hear each of them talking about where they are in their lives today, where they come from, and what is for them the vision, what is for them, what we can share that it can help us, again, as a community to have tools for growth, for well-being, and for healing eventually. So first, I would like to introduce René Jenkins. Good morning, René.
Morning. This is my healing partner and beloved Janay Cipriani. Um, we work together in doing sound healing offerings, sound vibration for healing and well-being. I'm a professional musician and have been playing, and we've been playing together since 2003. Um, my journey started uh, probably with Lawrence Smith, that song that I first sung. It's a sacred Kashaya Pomo word called Weya. And it was taught to me by Lawrence Smith, a Kashaya Pomo Yomtha, who's a healer. And he would sing the song Weya, which means this nurturing, healing energy. He would sing it directly to people or to groups, and he would envision them in complete wholeness and wellness. And as he would sing, he would invoke and evoke this energy of Weya that's all around us and that's within us. As we share our nurturing and healing energy to others, we are giving that and acknowledging that nurturing, healing energy. So that was a really big lesson for me in the beginning, that as I give this nurturing, healing energy, that I also receive it as I sing it and at an acknowledgement, so that the circuit is closed. Now, we are all healers here. We all have this resonant body and an instrument. And as we focus our intention and connect with our heart center, we are able to be this divine instrument. And we each have our own special way of doing that. And so to me, our message is and has been to help others recognize and acknowledge and validate their power simply by being here. It's like each of us is almost like a tuning fork. And as we step on the earth, we are bringing our vibration, our unique vibration in the moment, in present time. So every moment is sacred as this moment is. And you are sacred and very important to be here. You're supposed to be here. So hopefully, I know that this conversation that we're having today is a remembrance of, oh yeah, I bring something unique as my fingerprint, as unique as my iris. I'm bringing a resonant quality to this moment. And it's very important that I'm here to do that. So Janay has a special, unique thing. I'm going to speak for her a little bit. If she wants to chime in, she can. Uh, she uses intuition. She's not necessarily a musician, but she's very much a sound healer because she's able to see energy very clearly. So if you're playing a Tibetan bowl or a guitar or flute, and the recipient starts opening their heart, she's able to see that and bring an instrument to that space to help release any blocked energy or to call in energy that that person's needing for their intention.
And also to clarify that when I'm watching and seeing something open up, I'm also seeing the pixelated energy of the music just head right towards whatever chakra is in need of healing. And so it's that very beautiful movement. It's almost like a swirling energy that goes forward.
And I think that's important too, because when we play, as we're giving our weya, that energy is coming in. It's like a gate, and there's forces, our own guides, our own teachers are conspiring to have us receive that energy, whether we see it or not. I invite you to use this sacred Kashaya Pomo word for yourself to acknowledge that healing, nurturing energy that you give, to sing to yourself, to feel the vibration of your voice, your heart, to acknowledge that nurturing, healing, and energy that's within others. And in doing so, we're sharing that sacred reciprocity, that Aini spirit. And I know that I've learned about Aini through a teacher, very most profound teacher, Tito La Rosa, who's a Quechua Indian sound healer from Peru. And he shares his medicine from his ancestral lineage, giving instruments and wisdom and having a wake of love in his vibration. And I've learned very profound information from Tito through his example. And Ailish Schutz, she brings Tito to the United States, and she's worked with Tito as well as we've worked all together here. Tito's influenced even Laura and Sarah.
Absolutely.
Maybe I should go next.
Yeah.
Please.
Hi, I'm Ailish, and thank you, Renee. That was so wonderful. I'm tuning in here today from Petaluma, where I have a little farm. And I want to thank you, Laura, for inviting me to be on this panel. Although it's caused me to do a lot of reflection about how I talk about what it is I do, and I do many things. My background is in psychology, and I'm kind of an entrepreneur. I've worked in the field of organizations for 36 years, and I guess I could say what I do is work with groups. I met Renee at the same time that he met Tito. My late husband had just died, and I had these numinous experiences that left my body feeling like light. And so I met Tito by accident, and his music really spoke to me. And so I began bringing him here, and he invited me to Peru, and then I started a whole ongoing adventure in Peru back in 2004. And so I've spent a lot of time traveling there, working with healers and different who do offer different from different. So what was so amazing about meeting Tito, and when starting in 2004, I started working with him doing sound healing. So we've been doing that together here for 16 years. And he's pretty much the only person I do that with. So it's a kind of funny thing, but he taught me without trying to about what I already did. And so I would characterize the sound healing and the work I do with groups is about soul retrieval, although the expression of that is very different. I worked with groups and organizations, team building, coaching, personal growth groups as a therapist. And when I saw Tito teach for the first time, I thought, oh, he does what I do, but he does it in a completely different milieu. And so I love that milieu. So I feel very fortunate that I have been working with him and learning from him and exploring all of this, which I began in my 50s. So it was a whole nother avocation. And it's really about embodiment. It's, my background is body oriented psychotherapy. And this is about embodiment, soul retrieval, creating a field of intention and energy, in this case with sound, that allows people to enter deeply into themselves and discover other dimensions that they can then own that they didn't know that they had. Spiritual dimensions, memories, emotions. So it's a very rich tapestry. And in the process of doing this, I also started a nonprofit organization. And Tito and I and his partner, we worked we started humanitarian projects down there in Peru. So I'm talking about many different things that I dabble in, but it's something that
They are all in resonance.
yes. So I think that's all I want to say. I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Laura, for inviting me. It's great to be with all of you.
Yeah. In that, I'm curious, Kate, Joy, you as Ailish are not really a musician or a sound healer, but I know that in your work you use sound, voice, and music in a really, really amazing way. And so that's why I'm excited to have you here. Can you share a little bit about you?
Sure. Yeah, it's so wonderful to be here with all of you. I feel your resonance deeply. Before I start, Renee, there's a question from the audience as to what the instruments were that you were playing. So maybe you could quickly answer that so it doesn't get lost. You had a couple of different ones. You're unmuted. Go ahead.
This is called a baling bing or bunkaka, which is hard to say it without smiling, but it's also called a spirit chaser. It's from the Philippines. It's like a vibra stick. And so it's a piece of bamboo. And
So cool.
You strike it with a piece of hard bone and not too hard. And it has a nice resonance to it. So that's that instrument. And then
And Janay had one too. Janay had an offering.
Right. This is a shakapa. And these are made of, these personally are bamboo leaves that we've gathered from the property, which is always very nice. And when you do gather them and make them, it's very nice to ask the bamboo itself if it's all right if we take from her. And then we usually give a little gift in return. And then it just has a beautiful sound that reminds of almost of the wind through the trees. And for me, it just is almost like coming home. And we use it as a spiritual broom also to cleanse the body. And like an energy broom. And it sweeps that energy away that's been clustered in certain parts of us. So
Thank you.
that's the shakapa.
Yeah, and the shakapa.
Thank you so much for that.
It's an ancient tool. It's, as she said, an energetic broom, but it's also used for entrainment. So you notice it has that wispy sound of the air, like an elemental sound, but it also can be a rhythm that helps people get into an altered state of consciousness, which is sort of our business as sound healers. Each of us, we help people into that state, altered state of awareness, where a lot of that information comes in. That's our own information.
That's great. Thank you so much for that. I just wanted to make sure we were responsive to our beautiful audience. So I'm Kate. I live actually in Pomo country on a property in Occidental called the Compound of Joy. My middle name is Joy and I live on Joy Road. So effectively I am one. And I could feel the energy of the land responding to that offering, that song as I sang it. So I will now be carrying that forward as I greet the day and say hello to the redwood trees. My work, I'm a vulnerability doula. I have a practice called Contagious Vulnerability. And my work with resonance is really about helping you tune into your inner resonance through somatic work, through deep presencing, through Socratic inquiry, so many different tools that I have to help you tune into your unique instrument, and then also tune into the resonant frequencies of those who share space with you, those you relate to, so that we're not a symphony of one, we're a symphony of many. So we simultaneously have these beautiful instruments that, as Renee so beautifully put, have an energetic signature and frequency that is ours alone. And we're part of this giant universal symphony, our cosmic oneness. And so I like to help people be aware of the duality of being both the same and different, being interconnected, and also noticing that each day you show up, your resonant frequency shifts and changes. Like I'm not the same person that I was when I met you yesterday. I'm different, you're different, the energy around us is different. And so I think the biggest gifts I think we all try to offer is the deep gift of our presencing and presence. So being very attuned to what energies we're offering in spaces and inviting others to offer into their spaces, and also helping others tune outside of themselves, both inside and outside themselves, because I think it's important to recognize that beautiful duality so that we don't get lost in solo work, which is, I think, one of the biggest challenges in our world today. It's a nicer way of saying narcissism, but there's a lot of mindful narcissism and conscious narcissism going on in the world. And so I'm very much about going from me to we and constantly weaving that beautiful, energetic, reciprocal exchange. So that is what I will share.
Beautiful. And in that, talking about, these sacred spaces we create for us, for the other, to really get there, I would love to also introduce Swellen Primost. And Swellen for me is one of the ceremonials and that I've met, and she also brings in sometimes the mythology, the storytelling. Good morning, Swellen.
Good morning, everyone. It's so lovely to be with all of my family here, all over the planet, wherever you are. I'm speaking to you from Northern California in a very beautiful, bucolic place. And I'd like to share just a little bit about my own journey. I started off as a trained cellist. I went to conservatory, so I was classically trained. However, there was a lot of music in my own family. So we played music very informally around the house, and I improvised all the time, and I just loved music. However, being trained in a conservatory, they tell you that the only valid music is music that's written down on the page. So you go through life with this this feeling of intimidation about your own personal voice, connecting with the universal sounds. It has to be written on a page. So you start off with that, and you have to get through that one. That was the first thing as a classical cellist. Then the second thing that happened to me was a very wonderful and profound experience. I joined up with a group of improv musicians in Santa Fe, and we would play in public places like haciendas and plazas. And I remember one day after we played, a young man came up to me and said, when you were playing, all of a sudden I became aware of everything. I became aware of the birds, and I became aware of the sound of the wind. And I thought, and I went back home and I thought, what was really happening in this exchange as we were improvising and connecting with people who were in that space with us? And what came to me at that point was that we were as if we were ferrymen. We were inviting people to come on a boat with us. And our role in that was to hold the space, to hold people safe, to allow them to leave their identity on the shore, on the wharf, step into the boat, but a safe space. We had to hold that space for them and to go into this journey with us. And then our obligation was to put them back on the shore at the other end. And that opened up something to me. And then I thought, what is it that we're really doing? It feels like the bodhisattva vow in action. We are not allowed to be enlightened as musicians and healers going into these wonderful spaces until all beings are enlightened. And so when we have a space on this vessel, holding space for others, we have to be constantly connected with them and feeling where they're at. And if they're feeling marginalized or fearful, we have to be able to stop and bring them in and hold them through that journey. And that is what I'm talking about. We cannot be enlightened until all beings are enlightened. And that is our role as ferrymen, to bring people through an experience safely, put them on the other side, and let them process that in their own time and see what is of use and what is of value and what opens the gate for them. So that was a very important experience I had. And the third experience that really continued to open this for me was connecting with an amazing human being named Renata Scoberni. She had been born in what was then Yugoslavia. She was a concert violinist. I met her in Milwaukee, which was near Santa Fe at the time. And she became my mentor. She had worked with Herbert von Karajan, with the Berlin Philharmonic. She was a very deep and profound person. And one day, as I was sitting with her, she stopped the lesson and she said, "Sue-Ellen, wait." And she brought a book to me of Karsh. This was photography. And it was a photograph of Mont Saint-Michel, the abbey in France. And she said, "Just sit with us a few moments." And I sat with that beautiful image. And then something happened to me. Something happened to me. And at the time, I had been playing the first movement of the Beethoven, one of the Beethoven sonatas. And I sat with it, and she sat looking at me and experiencing what I was feeling, tuning into me. And then she put the book down and she said, "Sue-Ellen, play the last 4 bars of the Beethoven." And I did. And something happened. It put me through a portal. What happened, I can only explain as this. There was something to do with sacred architecture. The sacred architecture in this abbey, the sacred architecture in the Beethoven, the sacred architecture in our own bodies. And what I felt in that moment, as best I can articulate it, was that all my atoms lined up. They just went like this. And when they lined up, when I played the last 4 bars of the Beethoven, there was a total alignment. And she took me through a portal into something that I could hardly speak about with words, but that's the best I can use. So those were 3 experiences I had that brought me to this place where I continue my work, and they have given me tools to use to be able to connect with other people, to be able to be a gateway for them to come into this resonance, into this alignment. So that is what I like to share about the work that I've been doing.
Thank you so much. So profound. And also what reminds me, and you have been an inspiration for me, is this work that birds do. When you look at them as a storm, it's called murmuration. And you and Jeremy, actually, with whom we've been collaborating at times here in Berkeley, you made even like a duo called Murmuration. And I would love also to invite Jeremy to share a little bit of words and maybe to bring in as well, the murmuration work that you've done through music. Good morning, Jeremy.
Hey, good morning, or I could say good evening, because I'm actually in Israel now, and it's 8:30 in the evening. Very inspired to be here, listening to all of you, and it feels a bit like it's reminding me, like I guess the intention, part of the intention of this work we're doing here, this meeting, is remembering all the beauty, all the treasures of this work we're doing. Yeah, I could start talking with about the murmurations. I think it's a very beautiful word that Sue-Ellen brought one day, and she said, when we started to play together and we were looking for a name for our duo, and she told me about murmurations. I didn't know this word. I don't know. It was beautiful. It just sounded beautiful. I didn't know what it was. And then she explained me that this is the way flocks of birds are moving together. And they will, you don't know why, nobody knows why, but they just decide suddenly they'll stop on a branch, and then they go again, and then they do these beautiful movements, and it looks like there's a magician conductor somewhere, which probably there is, which is, you can name it whatever you want, the universe, the great spirit. And it really feels like it's always a great inspiration for me when I improvise with people, and especially with Sue and also with you, Laura. We did a lot of work together. It's great to remember that it's not about me, it's the us. I think Kate was talking about the us before, and I really resonate with that, forgetting about the me and thinking about the us. And like also René was talking about the us that's invisible, which is also the us. So yeah, this image of rememberations for me is very present in my work. And I also teach improvisation, and I use this word many times when I teach people. They come, "Oh, I don't know how to play music, I don't know how to improvise." I say, "Okay, just close your eyes just breathe together. Let's breathe together. And I bring those pictures. Imagine where a few birds or the little sardines in the ocean also, how they do this movement. Just bring pictures of nature, and then we start to breathe together, and then slowly we go in, and the journey keeps going. We do little noise, bigger noise, and at the end people kind of lose themselves and they start to make all these crazy noises. This is really a fun experience to feel the togetherness. And at one point it does happen that suddenly we just stop altogether. Then we start, and nobody is an expert in music or whatever. Most people are beginners, and after even just one session, they start to realize, okay, it's in all of us, right? We are nature. It's not nature. It's not outside.
It becomes almost a universal language, a language that somehow it's innate in us, and we can kind of talk, right? The language of sounds and music.
Yeah, exactly.
Play a very unique instrument to bring in sacred ceremonies or sound healing, which is the saxophone, the clarinet. And I would love for you to share a little bit about how and what is your experience bringing those instruments.
I come from not classical, but more like a regular mainstream music, let's say. Or I studied jazz, I studied traditional music, I studied all kind. Very interested in music. When I was 10 years old, I started saxophone, and I was very passionate, and I've been playing for the last 30 years, and it's been really about technique for many years. I was learning more technique, playing crazy things, crazy Bulgarian music, or crazy jazz, or crazy, a lot of, let's play very fast and a lot of notes. And at one point I had an experience, a spiritual experience, where I felt suddenly that the spirit was playing through me. It was the first time. It was kind of like somebody slapped me in the head, and it was like, okay, just stop, just for a moment, stop, and let the music come. And there was a big shift in my life. It was in my 20s, and suddenly, well, I'll say I took mushrooms, and the mushrooms were playing through me. They were just playing through me, and it was like I was just smiling, and I was like, this is the most beautiful music I made in my life. And I was even, this is because of the mushroom or whatever. And then some friends told me, no, you never played like that. This was very different. It was a lot of silence, just like a phrase. Then there was silence, and it felt like it was coming from. And then I told the mushroom, like, hey, okay, that's very sweet and fun. What do I do with that? I want to keep it. I want to, I don't want to take mushrooms every day, but I want to play like that every day. So then I feel like they were their teacher, that they kind of taught me how to open something here, kind of like, okay, just open and let the music come from up there. And then this is what I've been practicing. After that, I said, okay, I leave the technique. I'll focus on the sound. This is why I'm going back to your question. I started to focus more and more on the sound, and started to play with very quiet instruments also, like playing with guitars, playing with violins, playing with, not only playing with trumpets and drum set, and then learned how to play very, very quiet, and that became very fascinating to me, to be able to whisper through the saxophone.
Debussy said that music is the silence in between the notes, and that's a lot to say, and that's probably where healing happens, where space is created in that silence and that listening. But I think, talking about the listening, there is so much more to say. I would love that instead we take 10 minutes of a sound journey that René and Janay shared with us, so that we can somehow experience now a little bit more. What are we talking about? Because I feel that if we experience it in our body, there is way more understanding and growth. So let's share these 10 minutes. And you can take these 10 minutes just to immerse yourself into the music, have a comfortable position and close your eyes and just let the music take you exactly where you need to go. Or you can take it as a moment even more to ground and, stay present in your body and enjoy it. Well, yeah. René and Janay, I would love for you to share a few words about how do you use sound? How do you use music in your practice? What did we experience that happens within you when you are the vessel?
It's much like what Sue Ellen was saying and Jeremy was saying, that we are, it starts here, in your center. Like starting a journey, you're asking for assistance to embark, and you're getting all the ropes in and before you leave on the boat, and you're making sure everyone's in. And that's sometimes it's what's going on within me personally, like herding cats. I'm playing to call these parts into alignment. And then as the journey begins, I have to let go of my training. I'm glad I had the technical training for that, but there's a point where I have to let it go and allow spirit to move through, just like Jeremy was saying. And it takes a little practice because there's the critic that's been helpful saying, oh, you're out of tune. Oh, that wasn't, you messed that note. The perfectionist in that part is important because I'm inviting that in. And we're having to listen to all of those selves that are perhaps in contradiction and invite those in, to allow those to be, but to say, okay, but we're going on this journey together. So some of the music in a way is kind of selfish because I'm working on myself. But I know as I do that, as I come to my authentic center, and I'm working to do that, bringing peace to those conflicting parts, arguing parts, that as I come to my center, that resonance, that authentic expression is resonating without. So you recognize that, oh, I know there's that place within me. So I'm doing that, we're doing that to strengthen that center. And I call it love. That's the best thing. There's other words for it. There's munai in the Peruvian tradition. Chi could be another name for it. And it doesn't really matter.
I love to call it
A
presence.
little, oops, oh, sorry. What?
I love to call it presence. For each of us is being, as you said, in this authentic presence where all of the different currents inside of us, the different characters, the critic, but at times the healer comes in and the shaman says, no, stay in that dissonance, that's good. And then the musician comes back after a little bit saying, okay, I can create harmony again. I've studied how to make harmony. So, and that's what is needed right now.
I just wanted to add a little bit to that because in my presence, when we're playing and we have a group of people in front of us, when Renee picks up an instrument, all of a sudden, everything, when I hear the first note, everything falls away. But then all of a sudden, everything comes back into alignment for me. And Sue Ellen, when you were speaking before, it was so deep in my heart what you said about the alignment, about everything coming behind you, because it's kind of what I feel and see. So when I watch these instruments who innately know what to do and where to go and how to heal, I just sort of step out of the way, but yet I'm encompassed in that energy. And so are we in that flow. So we're all lining up together. It's just magical sometimes when I'm looking at everybody helping everyone else in the group when the sound healing is going on. So that's a little bit of my interpretation sometimes when I'm watching and feeling, but it's like it's letting go, falling away, but then other things just coming in.
And as you
Yeah.
said before as well, you have also this gift that you see the sound and you see people's energy states, you see their aura, maybe a word to call it, you see their imprint that they have in that moment in time. What is that for you? I mean, how did you, and when you discover that you could see the world of the invisible, we can call it, which is there, but your antennas are a little bit more refined than others. So how, you know,
How it came to be was I was probably around 5 years old, and a being actually of light came into my room, and I was frightened by it at first, and it would just keep coming. It was just all white, and it was different layers, auric fields of white, and it kept coming closer to me and closer to me. And I just hid under my covers when I was little, and I expecting him to go away, and it was male for me. And when I pulled down the covers, he was there again. And after that, there was this journey. I spoke to the angelic realm a lot, and they used to always tell me that love is the absence of fear, and fear is the absence of love. And they told me that in time that we were going to be healed through sound and light. And so when my journey started and I started doing readings and seeing the energy, when I met up with Renee, it was almost instantaneously when I heard that music. And it just came together in such a way that one can't be without the other. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this, but it's interesting to note for me. I don't always see ocularly first the energy. First, it comes into my body and I feel it, and it whispers very gently to me. And then when I'm in the room with people, it's sometimes it can be difficult because I get pulled in different directions. So I can bring my back to someone, but I feel their energy and it will come very gently, push me and tell me something's wrong. And I'll turn around and it will ask for a certain instrument. And so I'll just say to Renee, I'll point to something sometime or some part of someone's body and saying it needs that because it's telling me, informing me. So
right.
For me, opening up first to listening is really important. And seeing is the last thing for me. And that I don't try to see first. I try to hear, listen, feel the energy and connect to that spirit of every single being. Even if we're just online like this, I can feel their energies coming towards me. So for me, it's energetic, it's sensing, it's feeling, and just listening and just letting go and knowing that I'll be told. So I have to always listen. And sometimes life is going on in my head, and my mom has Alzheimer's. So for me, if she's stirring or upset, I get back in that other energy. But I find that if I work on her with instruments, totally different. I don't give her any kind of medication, but I'm just bringing that little element in my life to tell you about that. where letting go of that and letting the instruments in your life and just even sound.
It's trust.
Yes.
Yeah,
In
at
that,
some
we
point, we
talk a
all have
lot about healing in this work. We talk about sound healing and so forth. And a big question is as well, what is healing? You know, how healing happens? Is that bringing people in that presence and connecting them with their moment in time in their life, in their emotional state? Is it with music moving emotions, energy, emotion, so allowing people through music to resonate with certain areas of their bodies, and so by sympathetic resonance exposed to our sounds, they kind of oscillate, and those areas somehow they release energy, and that release, it is already the healing, or the release carries information, carries a message from our cellular memory, from our ancestors. In that, I would love to open as well this question. Maybe Swellen, it would be interesting to hear from you and your experience. What is healing for you, and how healing happens? What do we bring in our work in order to give possibilities of healing?
I would like to respond to something you just said. Can you hear me all right now? One of the things, I have a friend visiting, and one of the beauties of deep friendship is that your deep friends, your soul friends, hold your tuning. They know you in essence, they know your tuning. And that is the beauty of being with abiding friends, that when you're with them, everything in you retunes, it comes back to the essential tuning place. And having had that experience and still having it, being in this beautiful matrix of friendship that I am living in, I would like to bring that to this conversation, that because we know what that is for ourselves, we're trying to invite other people into that field where they can get in touch with their essential tuning. And so I find that that's a wonderful piece. And as practitioners, as sound practitioners, as we go on sound journeys and invite people with us on these sound journeys and hold a safe container for them to be on this journey with us, we invite them into the nuances of, for example, just one sound, the nuances of one sound, and even one note. It's so expansive. It's so bright, it's so dull. And so many people in classical music training, they think an A is 440 and that's the end of it. No, that's not the end of it. That's only one place in a huge, beautiful expanse, a nuancing of one sound. And so as practitioners, we invite people to come in with us, and we go with them through this nuancing, and then they go, ah. And when they go, ah, they feel that alignment. They begin to feel, God willing, that tuning inside of themselves, and they start to come in touch with that tuning. And once they are in touch with that tuning, something is released. There's that alignment that can happen.
Beautiful. But another aspect of this question is at times, what are we healing from? You know, what is that we need to heal? I know that for each of us is different. And I'm like, Ailish, I see you are vibrating.
I don't ask that question because we don't always know what we're healing from. And when we're working with sound or the other work I do with groups, what I want to do is invite the healing to come in into the group. And like Janay mentioned, how the group works with each other, the energies of the group work with each other. So it's more trusting that healing will take place. When I work with sound, sometimes I don't see people for a year. They come back to another ceremony that we're doing. And when afterwards they'll say, you know, you saved my life. because this, and this happened when I was listening to you play this, this, and that. And I'm thinking, whoa, didn't know that. I wasn't seeing that. I wasn't feeling that. But that person felt something very deep and profound that sent them. So it was nothing that I did. If we do anything, we create a space where these possibilities and this magic can happen. And some of us may be more insightful or have it like vision, like Janay is talking about, that we see these things and experience them in different ways. But for me, it's just to invite the healing, and not any specific thing, and to use what I've learned to Tito, to use the elements, to invite the divine into the room, to invite the energy of the earth, the Pachamama, to invite the energy of the wind. And those elements then become present and they start to weave their magic. And my experience is that we're just in that field dancing with it and playing with each other, watching Janay and Renee, watching you work together. The dance that you do, it's like cooking with sound. And I love it because it's just like cooking. And when sometimes you can make an incredible feast because you're so much in sync with your partner and the people in the room, and the starlight comes in. What is it that's coming in? That it's to be able to begin to trust more and more the magic, that it's there, it's palpable, and the healing will happen differently for each person. So I don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. And I love in that again, I love these questions because a lot of the community members, they are curious, like what, not only how, but what is this? And coming back to the elements, almost as if even within us, we have those elements. When we are so, like this, we have a lot of air and fire element, where instead we are, on the couch and, with our friends, and maybe the water element is more present in that moment. And at times these elements, they go a little bit out of balance. So maybe healing, and what are we healing from? It is simply just be aware. What is it within me? What is this inner environment? What is the inner currents that as well are running without my attention? And so when we bring that space of presence and attention, it's as if we give permission to the person to sense where is or she is at, right? Kate.
Yeah, I think I love the idea that it's about harmonization of elements and not about eradication. So the birth of contagious vulnerability was witnessing my mother's 20-year battle with depression that ended in her suicide 12 years ago. I witnessed a similar journey with my brother that's still ongoing. And I think for me, the notion that you eradicate things, like you suppress parts of your soul to heal people, doesn't make any sense. That seems to create more disconnection, not less. So it's invited in me a very holistic approach to mental health and wellness that I think is about identifying and tuning into all the different aspects of your soul, your psyche, your energetic being, and to find how to harmonize them, to pay attention to each one as if it was a unique instrument, and invite it into your personal symphony while simultaneously being aware of the symphony that's around you. And I think what came through as you are all sharing with Ailish and Sue Ellen and Renee, and Laura, we've used the words listening, we've used the words feeling, we use the word sensing. And what I'm inviting is, I was a classically trained musician. My mother was a music teacher. I hated the metronome. That was just suppression to me. But what I'm finding is that it's about feeling all of it, right? It's more of an embodied experience of energies, not just your ears, and what's fun is to tune one of your senses out, like close your eyes and tune into the audio and realize you can read not just the sound of somebody's voice, but the energy of their being, even across a Zoom call. And so that's the presencing, where you're really deeply present in all of your senses and all of the information, the sensory information that's flowing around you and towards you, and that you're also offering in reciprocity is this beautiful, as Ailish said so beautifully, it's a beautiful dance. It's a beautiful, intuitive, cooking jamboree of some sort.
Well, in that, also, I'm curious to hear what we can suggest people as ingredients. I mean, everybody has olive oil at home, I hope. I mean, I'm Italian, you should have olive oil at home, because if you have that already, is great time for your food. But what are the ingredients that somehow are accessible to all of us? In my experience, I see voice. We have already this amazing, powerful tool, which is our voice. And at times there are cultures where they show us how voice has been always a powerful tool to release tensions, to rebalance the system, to mourn. You know, in Sicily we have the lament when someone dies, and they come, women, they come to help people going through the suffering, through the mourning by lamenting. Oh, yeah, yeah. And maybe, you know, the oldest son, who is a little bit more shy, finally starts to cry, and that movement of crying releases whatever is there that needs to release, and there is again room. Or shaking for other culture, which is another way somehow to use sound. As animals, we can shake it out. 3 seconds already, you feel different. What are these tools? Let's talk a little bit about.
I like to use my voice a lot to sing songs that I make up in the moment. And I sing them like a fairy voice into the person's ear. Usually they're in Spanish because that's the language I use because of when I'm with Tito. But it's we have these lullabies that our culture has, the ones your grandparents sang to you, to remember those things, that just something so simple is to sing to someone. And it's the tool is you opening your heart and directing your love in whatever medium you want, with Renee's way tool, with your voice, um, even the way you speak to someone, that in itself. And then of course those of you who have have all this training in our musicians, you have, I'm just always completely wowed by what you have available to you.
Yeah, you bring an important. Yes, Jeremy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on what Ailish was saying, that for like been working sometimes with people that are very self-conscious, and using the voice can be very intimidating or very like, oh. So I found out that what can be very helpful is bring a friend. I mean, bring a Shruti box, bring a drone, bring a drum, bring a shakapa. You can make your own shakapa. It's this is a Shruti box. Very simple. It creates a very, very beautiful drone, a note that's constant, and then anybody suddenly sings great. Like every sound feels like it feels good, and then you start to vibrate from the inside. And also, there is something about giving time, like just like try to. There's a trance phenomenon that happens in the mind if you give enough time. So if you say, okay, you put a timer, or if you if you want to make sure you do it the time that's wanted, but go. One of my teachers would say, I think 21 minutes. Go 21 minutes. Maybe not every day, but every once in a while, to really feel there's something that happens after some time. You start to go in the zone, and this is where gates are opening. You start to feel different things, whatever you want to name it, spirits, energies, lights. And also physically, there's something happening. Your body starts to secrete all kind of hormones, all the good hormones, the oxytocin, serotonin, all the good stuff from just toning, just doing even, it doesn't have to be beautiful. That's what I teach people. It's like, don't make it beautiful, make it spontaneous and play with it. So if you have a Shruti box or something helping you, then you'll be less self-conscious, just something that makes noise and that keeps going.
There's something about the quality of energy there. From my teachers, there's the dynamic, masculine, transmittive type of energy. When you're evoking or sending out like an invocation, sometimes it's like you're calling out for assistance. It's okay to do that musically, to call, whether it's your guides, your teachers, the directions. There's a dynamic element to that I just call masculine or transmitting energy, transmittive. And then there's the magnetic energy. This is from Angeles Arian's teachings, by the way. She was a cross-cultural anthropologist that compiled indigenous wisdom from around the world and would share this information in a seed, which was, here's this magnetic quality that we have, which would be like the feminine quality. And it's a sound, sometimes it's sound that makes you go inward, like the sound, the ringing of a Tibetan ball, that singing ball draws you in. That would be that magnetic quality. And in balancing that, you may have heard in that flute, there's the da 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 da, almost like drawing up courage for you to face the next day or the challenge ahead. And we're each doing that in our own way. And so I think about the masculine and the feminine, the dynamic and receptive energy. And what does that sound like? Because that yin yang energy is present now. And sometimes we don't know what we need, but maybe a kick in the pants is the best way to get us up. And what sound is that to inspire us into action? And maybe it's about soothing and resting, like that lullaby. So when we're doing our sound healings, when we're creating a journey, we're often going through these worlds. When we're starting a journey with an invocation, then we start with something perhaps like an entrainment piece, where you're doing a rhythm with the shakapa, where you're saying, okay, everyone in the boat, now we're floating down the river. Then it's about the things we might encounter. And at that point, it could be dynamic, something that's dynamic, something that's about digging in the dirt. Maybe it's about letting something go. But I think of these worlds almost like a soundtrack that we are providing for the recipients and for ourselves. And remember, it's that thing of what do I need? As I'm shakaping, is that a word? Using the shakapa, I'm going to shakapa myself to help with what's coming up for me, because I know someone else needs that.
Yeah, you don't close the circuit, you just keep the
keep the circuit
keep
closed.
the circuit open. So you're getting healed and they're
And it's back again into using the elements, right? Again, like that.
Yes.
The drumming, becomes like more pungent. And as you said, like it gives you this thing of it's more active. Yeah, and then the soothing part, the water, that the sibadora, little sound, humble, that maybe Ailish, he can show us from the Peruvian tradition as well. That's...
Okay, this is a vasija silbadora. It's Peru is the only culture that produced this. It is made of the four elements. It's made of the earth. It's fired to make it a ceramic.
There is water inside.
And when you
and there is air.
It pushes out. The air pushes out the sound, which is the fifth element. So I use this to remind people of the element of water. Get close to them. I don't know if you can hear that. It's the sound of passage. It can take you from one dimension to another. So when I work with Tito, we do sound healing, but then we do a ceremony, and each person gets to be we ask them to choose a direction on the altar, the south for the earth, the north for the wind, the west for the water, the ocean, and the east is the sun, the light, the dawn, the divine. And so we ask them to go to the place that's most calling them. And then one by one, we play to each person from an intuitive place, and also from an experience of doing this for many years, to try to use instruments that will evoke that element. And then everyone gives their attention to that person. And in those moments, often I use this if they're sitting in the water, the direction of the water, of the oceans, and all the inner teacher. What is it that people are trying to develop inside themselves? Or it might be the drum, like Renee was talking about. Sometimes someone needs something dynamic. They need to be able to embody more their power. The drum is a very good thing to use for that, to wake people up with their power, to let them feel what really makes their heart beat. So that's kind of an example of how you might bring the elements in.
And it's, I think, at least for me, it's one of the foundation of my work, to work with those elements. And I would love to invite as well a question from Sheridan, which is something that I really also care, is that she's asking about genders when we talk about opposites. And that is interesting because different cultures, like you said, René, you call the dynamic aspect of it masculine and the recipient kind of feminine. And then we look at, for example, the Vedic traditions when they talk about Shiva and Shakti. And Shiva, the male energy, instead is the quiet space where everything is ready to manifest. And Shakti is the power of manifestation, is that fire that rises from him, within him, they become one. Eventually, as we know, it is a union that is within us, because we use a lot of these words. First of all, I see words as process, descriptions of processes. It's not like objects. So when I think and I hear masculine, hopefully, for all of us, you don't see a man, but you see the wild spectrum, as we can see, of different culture using this word to describe qualities. And that's where I think we all come together when we talk about elements. Then we are talking about qualities. There is not gender anymore. And there is not even one that is better than another, because it is this union, the way in which they balance and they co-create, that creates balance and creates what we call well-being and maybe eventually healing, right? And so, as we were saying, in those settings, either if it's a sound ceremony for a specific ritual, it could be the full moon ceremony or a department of, or it's sound healing, meaning settings where we have a specific person field that we are trying to resonate with, or a group of people. In that, like, what are, I think, available for us in that invisible world are those elements that we can work with. When we enter that space in that ceremony, is all of the audience kind of shaking because it's Saturday night and they were prepared to be in front, a disco instead than lighting down? So how do we bring that frequency, that element of fire, in a place where we can balance it with more the earth element? Do we shift that far, or do we go through air first, and then we use the shakavas and then some water to connect them, and then eventually, hopefully, they relax and they can really close their eyes and be there. Just an example again how elements can inform as well the sense, the feeling that we have when we enter a room or a state like that. One of the other questions that has been very hot in these days is when we use plant medicine and we combine it with the music medicine, what is there now that is happening in this alchemy? Music, it is already medicine. And sometimes I've seen also practitioners actually using music and creating damage and then making, creating problems in the person's system. At times, the overuse of gongs in a session could be something that can damage the person's system. So even for me, music as a medicine, it needs to be dosed in the right way. That's why we need to be healers, meaning we need to be sensitive of understanding what is the dose, what are those elements that I'm creating that I don't want to over-empower because I know that it will burn the others. So in that, of course, already I feel music is so powerful. And then a lot of people in these days, as you, Jeremy, they kind of want to experience as well this opening of our centers by using other kind of intelligence, kind of wisdom of for the devices as plants and combining it with music. What is for you in your experience that you see when these two medicines they come together, and what we can bring as suggestions, for people to use them wisely and carefully the right way?
Wow, that's a big question. I think first of all, you're right. It's powerful. It's like taking a the fastest train you have instead of just walking to where you're going usually. I would say those are teachers. Like I said, my experience in my early 20s, I really felt it was like a teacher that came and showed me something. And it's, yeah, those are teachers, and it's like you want to use them, not use them, but let them teach you and ask for the help in a wise way, in a in the right amount, of course, and the right setting. And then to be ready, like to be ready to be with those plant medicine in a circle with other people, that's another level. You need to have like really a lot of experience, and that's, yeah, this is a long journey of practice. When I was in Peru and sat with the Shipibo people and saw them talking about sound healing, that was a very interesting experience for me to see them singing Icaros. Icaros are songs that they receive from the plant spirit. And the first evening I'm there, I'm lying down, sitting, I don't remember. And one of the maestros start to sing. I'm under the influence of the ayahuasca. One of the maestros starts to sing, and then another one starts to sing a different Icaros. And then a third one starts to sing a third Icaros. And my very Western mind is starting to freak out. It's like, what is that nonsense? And then I'm like, okay, I guess I'll put my ego a little bit down and just open to see what's happening there. And after a few minutes, I start I literally had a vision of like 3 different lines moving at the same time, different colors, like a green, a brown, and a yellow, I don't remember. And they were just beautifully working together. And it was such a brain opening, like a mind opening of understanding that, yes, music is not what I've been learning my whole life. It's not about playing a scale or a certain rhythm, in a certain way. There's much more than that. And I guess plant medicine have this capacity to crack our mind open, and once again in the right setting with the right people. And if you want to use it with people, I mean, holding the space with people, that's very, very big responsibility. Many people, like you said, do things that are really so yeah, I would say go in the places where people have been doing it for thousands of years, in Peru, in Mexico, with the mushrooms. There's many traditions where people are doing serious work, and it's very serious business. And beautiful and amazing.
Yeah, that's really wonderful what you said, Jeremy. I've been playing with groups for a long time now with plant medicines and the master teachers of the jungle medicine. And I'm by no means a master at that, but I do understand that when shamans are singing in their icaros, they are oftentimes singing the names of the plants to activate within the person the medicine that they've taken. So when they're singing to activate, to ask for healing, to assist the medicine to come alive within the person, to work with their intention. So when I'm in that situation, which is different than when Janay are playing for a group, a small group or a large group, it's very different with the medicine, because then it becomes, oh, this ally, I'm working with this ally and I don't want to conflict with with what she's bringing. So oftentimes, and oftentimes it's dark, it's pitch black. So I can't go up to people without the fear of hitting them on the head with my didgeridoo or poking them in the eye with the shakapa. So what I'm thinking about is evoking the directions. Now, everyone has their own idea, but according to Angeles Arian's work with the cross-cultural anthropological studies, that each direction has an archetypal meaning, a personality, if you will. So if the north is representing the warrior, leader, part of you, and I'm going to face the north in the dark, and because of my relationship that I have cultivated with the north, my warrior leader that's about showing up, I'm going to use the music, the sound to call in that warrior leader nature within me for us, for each of us in the room. And you don't know how that's going to, I don't know how that's going to play out until I get feedback later that maybe it's about somebody needed that energy to bring themselves, their arms to bear, to sit up straight, to take a breath, right? And the music, the sound is supporting that. And I know as I trust that, as I authentically ask for that energy to come, that it will. And as the south comes in, that's the direction of the heart and the healer. I face the south. I might be using the drum for that to bring in what has the most heart and meaning, the most meaningful thing to me. I might be thinking about my mom, might be thinking about Janay, but it's bringing in that tender-heartedness. And what will represent that tender-heartedness? And then I'm, of course, like Jeremy, you were saying, leaving space in between these things to allow the integration. Now, the East might be about the visionary, which is about bells and tingshas and higher pitched, that the sound of the visionary. So to call in, what's the vision? What is my next step? What does my life look like? What's my life purpose? Why am I here? And letting that be, and then there will be a point where the West, which is about the ancestors, the teacher, and that's about trusting and letting go. And if you think about our teachers our ancestors who have passed, they've had to do the ultimate in letting go and trusting, which is to let go of their bodies, let go of their lives, let go of all of their attachments, and trust and surrender. So much of these elements, as we're calling them in, it's about, I have to let go of my agenda. It's good to have a vision and to be strong. And it's also good to allow something greater to come in that I can't imagine. So I'm sharing this just because it's a way also for my mind to get into alignment.
Which is
so that I'm not
the fifth dimension, fifth direction, right? Which is the center.
Yes. Like setting the sails. You set the sails and then you allow the winds
As we
to
talk
take
about
you.
the 5 elements, I love, at least for me, when I call the directions, the 4 directions, I also call the 5th one, which is the center where I'm standing. And that's, again, now the alchemy that I'm allowing myself to create within me in connection with what is outside of me. And that's, I think, one of the key is always intention, right? What is the intent that we bring, that energy that we are tuning ourselves to? And in the quantum field, hopefully we resonate, we call back those potential resonances of that intention that I'm bringing in. And I would love also to add that for me the difference as well it's really simply that music medicine, you have the possibility anytime to dose it in your system as you want and as you need. And some people tells me, well, what about if I'm in a gong bath and they are skranking and like, what do I do there? Well, you can still stand up and gently leave the room, and that's it. You took yourself out of there. If that's happening and you also have the medicine within you, maybe you don't even feel your legs. How can you get out from there if the dose that you reached, it is about the dose that you needed in that moment in time? So that's also where I agree with you, Jeremy, is that sometimes it's also important that this comes in your life when you are ready to take those steps of trust, and anything that happens, you trust that is for the benefit of your own growth. Because if you resist, that is breaking. And that's the intelligence, I think, of the medicine wants us to break, because in that breaking, there is, room again for the new. But you have to be careful that you need to trust deeply, and you are in a moment of your life where you feel that you are held, you are supported, and that's exactly the setting. And the other difference is, though, not only that you have more control, so that control doesn't mean you are limiting yourself, it means that you can dose yourself as needed. The other thing for me is that the integration of the teachings that we receive through music medicine, they are almost more organic to our system. They are resonances we are already tuned to. And the integration, especially if you put plants, be sure you have a couple of days where you're not jumping back in your life, but you are gently embracing and digesting as needed. And you will be guided, because when we open ourselves to those kind of trust, life itself somehow shows up. Kate.
I so resonate with that, Laura, whether it's plant medicine or music medicine or even just experiences transformational experiences. There's so many people out there so desperate for awakening and transformation and enlightenment that there's a striving energy about it, which it's like there's got to be 10 steps or there's got to be an answer. And it's actually any experience, whether it's a sound healing or a ceremonial experience with plant medicine, the experience is just a fraction of it. It's the energy that lives on in your being that you metabolize over time, and it's an emergent thing. It's not. It has to take root in your spirit and work. You have to figure out how to work with it and be with it long enough for its wisdom to fully reveal itself. And when you are in a ceremony with plant medicine, they say that medicine is still alive in me right now. All the medicine I've ever taken. So you don't take medicine every weekend. You don't take it every day. You need the ma time, the space between the notes that makes for the music, the space between experiences that allows for integration, for wisdom to emerge and reveal itself to you, for you, because each medicine and each individual is different, and you need a relationship opportunity for that to develop. So I also think that we also focus so much energy on awakening experiences or impactful experiences, and we forget the practice, right? Awakening is like 5 to 10% of transformation. Building a practice around this shift that you're wanting to make in your life, whatever that is, whether it's a deeper relationship with yourself, with each other, and with the planet, or a birthing of something that you're wanting to offer into the world, it has to be a practice. So whenever I want to change something in my life, I sort of awakening, and then it's like, okay, how do I make this a daily practice?
Yeah.
And so I would love to hear how others work with that.
That's the key, because one message that I'm giving over and over in these days is stop practicing actually and be it. Be your practice. We are also in a moment in time where we are forced to be within us and present because of the isolation we are living globally. And so we are also in the possibility, truly, how does it feel if I am what I'm trying to practice or to learn? What about if that teaching that I'm kind of trying to follow becomes instead my style of life? It becomes instead who I am. How does it feel to be that? Boom, and you shift in being instead than feeling that you're still learning. Or so, as Jeremy said, you get a message. He got a message, and he actually didn't need the mushroom anymore. He got the teacher giving the lesson, and now he's independent, and he's growing into that message. So as you said, I think it's not those 5 minutes, it's not that enlightenment moment. It's like, what do I do with it? Is there anybody wants to add? Because there is also another interesting question from the audience. Debbie, she's asking how this work is when it's in person, how instead is effective when it's over the internet. So in this modern time and these modern days that we are living, also in this virtual place, how do we do it? I want just to, answer to that from my heart, because I've done this virtual world since March, since COVID, and I've learned a lot. And one thing that I can say is that I've seen people, even if at the beginning I had issues with the sound, I was not turning on original sound, it was breaking. And by not losing my presence, my intention, and even if I was losing the sound, it was reaching the people in the way in which they needed. And one thing that I want to add is, sometimes I say we are living shamanic times, meaning time that is not linear. We have these moments where the coordination of time and space is lost, and especially space. We are not in each other's presence in a space. Jeremy is in Israel, I'm in Berkeley, and so forth. But we have one coordinate, which is time. Right now, in this time, that for each of us is different, but we are together, so we are pulsing in the universe together from different directions. And we know that it's not only my voice that creates waves, but the waves, they get rippled all around and along and never lost. And so probably keeping the element of time as well. And so doing settings like this where we are in presence. Your words, they are touching me. I'm sweating. So it means my body, it is involved in here, So even if the space is a place where through the virtual world is lost, I recommend at least to have the coordination of time being there, so that the energy that is evocated, it's still reaching you even if you are on the other side of the world, because we are freaking spinning so fast. So even if I do this, you're already in the other side in Australia, probably. You should hear it by now, because, boom. So that's one key, to create and use technology as well to keep being connected this way, even if it feels a little bit more detached. And then there is this thing, there's a webinar, I can see it tomorrow. So we are also losing that power of the coordination of time, because the suggestion is buy your ticket and listen to it tomorrow because I give you the recordings. It is not the same thing. And yet, as these sound journeys that I've built and people are in myself, I'm also receiving my own medicine. I'm able through technology to receive from my medicine, because now I can listen to it again. But it's about your presence. It's about your being. Again, go back to the same conversation, right? It's about presence, authenticity. And also to use music as tool. We refer to MetaMusic. What is this beyond music itself? We need also to look at it as a tool, as functional music. It has a function. Then whatever it creates in you is your own journey. But also to tune yourself into, when you take a sound journey, tuning yourself to the infinite possibilities that are there, and trust. Even if it feels boring at times, or you are falling asleep, maybe you need it to fall asleep because you're exhausted. So also, again, the trusting part of it, to be open to the experience. And again, playing with music as well as a medicine, as a vehicle, it is so organic that, it's easier to receive it. We have also not a lot of time, there's so much to say. This is just the beginning of the conversations. So I would love to see what is in your heart today, that you feel that it would be beautiful to share.
That that you are the instrument, and you know, we have the ability to sense, to feel the subtleties of the wind on our face. And as we bring in this air, wind element into our body, and we allow it through, we are resonating the vocal cords, which is able to express such sensitive information. With our cadence, with our intention, we're shaping the sound. And we can show great love and compassion through this instrument, this divine instrument, through our movements, sharing our thoughts, our sacred knowings. So I would say, as I'm working on this myself, to just deeply honor who you are and share your most authentic self. And if it misses a little bit, that's okay. Just keep trying it, because we need your medicine. You are carrying sacred medicine. And everything that you play, everything that you do is an opportunity to share that. And we need it. We need it now.
I'm just going to add something on a different note that I feel, which is really important, is going out and connecting with nature as much as you can to, and to listen to what she wants to talk to us about, you know, whether you sitting next to a tree and putting your back up against it, and any of the day's frustrations that come forward. Sometimes I ask the trees to take that energy from me. I ask if it's okay, and I usually feel a response, and I let it go and I let them help heal me. So whether I'm sitting under an arbor and there's bumblebees around buzzing all over me, and I just let myself go on a journey with that nature, because they want to talk to us all the time. So I think it's important to connect to that.
And to sensitize, it's like sensitizing the instrument you be. If we're always listening to the radio or the news and we're getting inundated by other frequencies that really aren't our own and about listening, then that's, yeah, to sensitize.
I would say this is just coming to me by being with all of you. Do something to create sacred space. Maybe you already have done that in your life, and it can be in a moment. It can be in your car, or it can be something in your house that you make your altar, so that you can begin to see that all space is sacred. But you have to start somewhere with anchoring yourself in connection to that. And then time. Laura, when you were talking about the function of time and so forth, I thought of this song in the 60s. I don't remember the words so clearly, or whose record it was, but it was "Time is too short for those who wait." To, I don't know if you remember that song, but the last line in the song was, "But for those who love, time is eternity." And when there is no time, when you can let go of time, all you have is the now, and you have the eternal. And so even though I may have missed your webinar, I can tune into your essence and watch it's all there. It's all happening at once. I think that time is an illusion, and that what we know about it is very limited, and it's the same thing with space. So sacred space, and then prayer. If you're stuck somewhere in any little or big thing, to remember that you can ask the universe or whoever it is you pray to help you. And basically, for me, all of this sound work is a prayer. I use the cooking, metaphor, but that's also praying.
I love that. I love all of what's been shared, and to sort of build off of it. What's really alive for me right now is thinking about what kind of ancestor I want to be. What kind of energetic imprint do I want to leave in this precious lifetime that I've been gifted? What are my energetic gifts for the world, and how do I stay aware in every setting about the energies that I'm giving and receiving? Because it's this beautiful exchange that's happening all around us always. And so tuning into that and really being thoughtful and treating everything like a stewardship, right? It's, I don't own this land, I steward this land. And it's invited me, as have the energies and spirits of the land, to care for it, to be its human advocate, agent. But I'm in service to it. So how are we in service to the world? How do we find our gifts and not hoard them and hold them, but offer them freely to the world? And part of those gifts is the unique resonance of our beings, our unique instruments.
Thank you so much for everything you've said. I totally am in alignment with everything. I'd like to bring in silence. Silence is the oasis of respite for all of us, and it's played such an important part in this work, this holy work that we're all engaged in. And I find that silence allows us to come to that field of meeting together, where all of the things that divide us, that separate us, melt away in that field of silence. And as we are allowed to guide people into all possibility in a safe manner, which is our mandate, that hopefully they will come into the trust that we feel in all possibility, the trust that everything that is needed in any given moment will be given to us, that we don't have to feel that we have to predict it, we have to plan it. Everything is given. And when we come into that deep, abiding trust, everything is given, and universes of possibilities open up for all of us. And we are so blessed and honored to be allowed to help people come into that world of possibility. So that is what I'd like to share. And knowing each of you has something very special. That's why you were born. You were born not to be anybody else but you, and to be the best of you, and to give your gift. And trust that that is what is needed right now. Your gift is needed. And oftentimes, if you come into the silence, knowing that we're all holding each other in that container of possibility, may that give you strength to go forward, to be able to do your service in the world.
Jeremy, do you have a seed of wisdom you want to share? Silence.
Silence. That was, I was being silence to just enjoy the silence. Just the wisdom.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, everybody. My seed of wisdom is resonating with everything that you said. And at the same time, in that silence, sometimes let arise some storytelling. I feel that it's time as well for storytelling to come back and to read about those heroes, those people that they were doing the sacred journeys, so that we somehow can see that it's an arch of time that is showing up in front of us. And maybe we are in the middle where the intensity is more, strong. But if you look at those stories, any struggle, it can be an opportunity. And so then they become heroes because of the struggles that you get along the story. So I invite you to read and tell ask your grandfathers, what are the stories that you were told when you were a kid, or look at the heroes that we have. And one thing that I love is The Last Airbender, the Avatar, is a cartoon. So for your kids, amazing teachings about talking about the elements, you know, how do we bend the elements? It doesn't mean we control the elements, but instead we dance and we, you know, we become the elements. So there are many storytellings that right now they could be really important for us to also deal with what we are dealing. And so that trust that we are talking about, that well-being, it is also to see the bigger picture, to see the arch of time that is unfolding in front of us, and be that eagle that is aware. And then to jump in, of course, in your daily life, be present, bring your gift out, and just enjoy it. It's precious, and it's now. So thank you, everybody. Again, this is just the beginning, I hope, of many conversations. You're free to reach out through emails, websites, and stay tuned to yourself and enjoy your precious life.